Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have my April book haul for you. There are quite a few books in this haul because I did place a really large order from Book Outlet. Now, if you watched my Claim My Unhauled Books videos, then you know that the order that I placed from Book Outlet did experience some bad things on its way to me, and it resulted in Book Outlet reshipping the entire order. So I ended up with some duplicate books, which I did unhaul. So I'm going to go ahead and skip over those books. They've already been featured in my unhaul video. If you're still curious what other Book Outlet books I got, then check out that video. But I am going to start, as always, with the pre-order / new release books that I've picked up. The first book is a pre-order, My Lovely Wife. This is by Samantha Downing. This was on the first installment of my 2019 anticipated reads list. This is a thriller about a married couple with a seemingly perfect life with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids. I don't know. I know they have at least one child. But for fun, or their hobby is all about committing murder. I really want to get to this very soon. The people who've read it the people that have read it that I know of have enjoyed it, including Books and Lala. I think this one is going to be great. Totally not my style, but I did also pick up When the Sky Falls on Splendor. This is by Emily Henry. And Emily Henry writes kind of young adult fiction with a speculative twist. And this particular story is about a friend group who stumbles upon something otherworldly. Something crashes to Earth, and these friends go to investigate, and supposedly it changes everything. Emily Henry is the author of A Million Junes, which was a Book of the Month pick. It was one of the very first books that I ever reviewed for BookTube. Again, totally not my style, but I really enjoyed that book. Emily Henry's writing is really something kind of special. It's beautiful. Which sounds totally corny and cliche, but I don't know how else to describe it. I can't remember last month if I told you guys about Too Close to Breathe by Olivia Kiernan. I think that I may have, but it was a new release, and the first in a series. In April, the second book was released, The Killer in Me. This continues the story of Detective Frankie Sheehan, and it's about a boy who years ago had been convicted of killing his parents and the attempted murder of his sister. And he maintained his innocence. He went to prison, but now he's being released. And as soon as he's released, 2 bodies are found. So people are pointing fingers at him, and Detective Frankie Sheehan is involved in the whole thing. Next is the book Little Lovely Things by Maureen Joyce Connolly. This was also on my first anticipated reads list of 2019. It is the story, if you'll recall, of a woman driving down the highway with her 2 daughters in the car, and she's very, very sick, and so she has no choice, but she has to pull over and use the restroom, and she ends up passing out. When she comes out a few minutes later, her car and the daughters in the car are gone. It says, as hopeful and uplifting as it is devastating. Those are the new releases from April. Now I will share the rest of my Book Outlet order with you. The first book is called A Killer Harvest. This is by Paul Cleave. This is the story of a boy named Joshua. Well, I don't know that he's necessarily a boy. I guess it doesn't specifically say, but it is about a male character named Joshua who is blind, and he's given the opportunity to have an eye transplant. Can you hear the babies? He's given the opportunity to have his eyes transplanted with those of his dead fathers. What happens is that he starts seeing things that his father saw, and his father was a detective. Just as the reason his father was killed while investigating the homicide of a young woman. So Joshua ends up seeing things that his father saw, and kind of inherits this need to identify this killer. It sounds wicked crazy. Puts a moral spin on this twisting, chilling tale with its disturbing finale. There's sort of this thing that I do. My book outlet order was placed shortly after I read The Line Between by Tosca Lee. I happened to find 2 other books by Tosca Lee on book outlet, and I purchased both of them. One I mentioned in my unhaul video. This one is called The Progeny. It is the first book in a series that follows a descendant of Elizabeth Bathory. She's a 21-year-old girl. Her name is Emily, and she has the ability to influence people's minds. And what it sounds like is that she had some sort of knowledge that people were chasing her for and willing to kill for. And so she erased her own memory so that it couldn't be used as a weapon. Basically, what her knowledge couldn't be used as a weapon. So, I mean, come on, it sounds super fascinating. I don't know if it will be, and it's the first in a series, which always scares me a little bit. But Tosca Lee's got some crazy ass ideas. If you can hear one of my children in the background, I promise he's being tended to. Apparently, he's a little bit cranky today. Next is a book that had been on my save for later Amazon list for a long time. It is A Noise Downstairs, and this is by Linwood Barclay. And this is the story about a man who, his curiosity gets the best of him. He stumbles upon one of his work colleagues trying to dispose of 2 bodies. Chaos ensues. He almost dies, so he's suffering from PTSD. And his wife gifts him with this typewriter. And it's sort of this therapeutic way of exercising his feelings. He decides to write about the incident, and as soon as he does, he swears that he can hear the typewriter typing at night when he's in his bed. Tagline says, "You're either losing your mind or about to lose your life." Next, I picked up 2 more books in the Helen Grace series of crime thrillers. That series is by M.J. Arlidge. I picked up Liar, Liar, and I picked up Little Boy Blue. Interestingly enough, I think I now own 4 of the 6, 4 or 5 of the 6 in this series, and still don't have book number 1. Or maybe Eeny Meeny is book number 1. Maybe I should Google that shit. Okay, so there are 8 books now. Eeny Meeny is book 1. I do have Eeny Meeny. So, I have book 1, but there are 8 books in the series. I don't have books 2 or 3. I think the next one that I have is 4. And then I have... The next one I have is 4, next one I have is 5, and then I have like 5, 6, 7, or 4, 5, 6. I think I have 4, 5, 6. I don't know. It's a hot mess. So, Liar, Liar is the story of an arsonist. See this? House is on fire. It says 6 fires have been set in 24 hours. 2 people have died. So, D.I. Helen Grace must sift through the rubble to find an arsonist. Someone whose thirst for fire is reducing entire lives to ash. Little Boy Blue is the story about a body that's discovered that is a very close personal acquaintance to Helen Grace, and she elects to not tell anyone that she has connections to the victim. And apparently we understand, or we learn, that Helen Grace has this past life that needs to be or remain buried at all costs. Next is the book Dead Woman Walking. This is by Sharon Bolton. This is so crazy. Like what? Okay, so this guy murders a young woman, and the crime is witnessed by these people above them in a hot air balloon. The balloon crashes, and there's just one woman that survives. So she's running to escape the killer. It's just a twist that people won't see coming. It's kind of the point of a twist. But anyways, this sounds like it has survivalist aspects, which I really dig. I love a survivalist thriller where it's man versus nature, even if there's another element like woman versus killer and nature. So I am excited to read this one. Hopefully, I'm not mistaken. I know that if I was injured in a hot air balloon crash and running through the woods trying to escape a psycho killer, I don't even camp. I don't even go camping. So by the time it was over, I would probably be begging the killer to get me out of the woods. Next is Burn What Will Burn. This is by C.B. McKenzie. This is the story of a man who moves to a small town and he's not really welcomed. And one day he finds a body in his creek and he's kind of conflicted on what to do because he doesn't want to be implicated. But before he can really decide or say anything, the body disappears. He, at that point, can't help but speak out about it, and he's told that he pretty much needs to back off and keep his mouth shut. So this one I think is pretty short. Oh, this guy looks super serious. Look at him. He's like, He's on the phone. He's like, hey man, did you submit the headshot? He's like, oh shit. Hallway, taking a selfie. 210 pages or so. Should be a quick read. Sounds interesting enough. Finally, from the book outlet lot, this is Lucie Whitehouse, Keep You Close. This is a psychological thriller about two friends who've been estranged for years, I think like a decade. And one of the friends dies. Her death is ruled a suicide. But the friend who hasn't been in her life for 10 years knows that that can't possibly be the case. And so she's going to take it upon herself to prove that her friend's death was not a suicide. Not an entirely original story. I think in the last few months, this is probably the third book that I've heard of that involves somebody proving that somebody else did not commit suicide. But something about this is familiar to me, which encouraged me to buy it. These last two are just random little picks from Amazon. I think I saw something that looked good because I think I look at Amazon every day for nothing. But this is What Have You Done? This is by Matthew Farrell. This is the story of a man. It says he's a forensic specialist, and a body is found. And when he arrives at the crime scene, he realizes that the victim is a woman that he'd had an affair with, and he broke up with her in order to save his marriage. And so he's a little bit concerned that if he reveals his relationship to the victim, that he will be implicated in this murder. So he enlists the help of his brother, who is a homicide detective. And he confides in his brother the whole story, but as his brother is investigating, incriminating evidence keeps surfacing that points to Liam, the forensics guy, and so Liam starts trying to hide this evidence before it gets out, and what happens is the evidence turns and starts implicating his brother, Sean. Interesting little family drama. Finally, the book Welcome to Wherever You Are. This is by John Mars. I picked this up because of the author, John Mars, who wrote one of my favorite thrillers, The One. But Welcome to Wherever You Are, I believe, is self-published. It's about 8 strangers in a Los Angeles backpacking hostel. Not a lot is revealed about the actual plot. It just sort of implies that for these 8 strangers, they all have something about their past that needs to be resolved, and that maybe there's a reason that these 8 people are connected that they don't even know about. The One by John Mars is also this sort of ensemble cast of a book. I mean, that book in particular has 5 different narratives. I'm wondering if this one has 8. One thing that John Mars does, look at these short little chapters. Chapter 29 and chapter 30. Chapter 29 is literally half a page long. That drives some people crazy. I just wanted to pick up something else by this author. I don't want him to be a one-hit wonder for me, and I'm really determined to prove to myself that he isn't. I'm really determined to prove that John Mars is one of my favorite authors, even though I've only read one book by him. So, okay, that will do it for my April book haul. Sorry if you heard kids in the background. Still, I hope that you found some interesting things that you yourself might be interested in reading. If any of these stuck out for you, or if you've already read some of these and you want to share a little bit of insight with me, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.